I want to get your assessment on the impact of the Trump's administration on crypto so far. How much are you satisfied in a scale from 1 to 10?
Probably a five. Yeah, let's dig in on a few of the points here. One, I think like the on the regulatory front, like him having, I think a pretty strong emphasis on being pro business. We saw a bunch of SEC lawsuits dropped against what I would consider a lot of very legitimate businesses. Like for example, you have Crack and Coinbase, et cetera, that were embroiled in lawsuits with the SEC for I think pretty frivolous reasons. They're quite good actors in the space. You've seen some really silly things like the dropping of lawsuits with Justin Sun and Richard Hart, which I think are very much warranted. So that's where I give it a five. Is I think there needs to be some framework, and I feel like it's gotten a little too permissive. And some of these actors are bad actors in the space, so it's been a little disappointing to see that. Of course, like seeing the president and his team and family members immediately profit off of crypto just 4 weeks in, without providing anything a little bit more substantial, seems to be a little strange. And uncomfortable, where for example he like launched Trump coin and Melania coin, and obviously it's not Trump doing that, it's his family, so it's going to be his sons likely doing that. But just it's a little too explicit. I think like it'd be nice if it had been a little bit more. I mean, it does show that he's very pro crypto, but it's a little too grifty in my book. So we'll see what happens with the Friday meeting, the crypto summit in Washington. Very curious to see what they come out with. But right now, just sort of neutral on my feelings about it.
But also now we see that he announced not long ago, a couple of days ago, new crypto strategic reserve.
Yeah, I mean that was a grift. That wasn't a real announcement. That was his son tweeting it out. Obviously, took up very leveraged call option positions in those crypto assets, and when they pumped 30%, made tens or hundreds of millions. Like that wasn't a real announcement, and that was bullshit. Like to be frank, that was terrible. That was garbage. Like this is where like I give him a 5 out of 10 because, and then he tweets out XRP and ADA because they knew those two were going to pump. That's why they put those there. And then they're like, oh yeah, Bitcoin and ETH, of course. Yeah, you don't make a mistake like that. That's an intentional mistake, and it's meant to pump the market. So it's a clear grift, and it's just pretty fucking disgusting.
You said that it was not an announcement, but that came from Trump's official Twitter account.
That was his son tweeting from his father's account, not Trump. I can guarantee you there was probably some internal fighting after that.
How are you sure about that?
You really think Trump, who's a geriatric fuck, knows how to tweet? Look, presidents don't craft their own tweets. I mean, they craft some of them. I don't think Biden ever crafted a tweet. Now, Trump, his are so unique and different, I don't know who can really match his style, but that one was very different from the other Trump tweets.
Okay, yeah, because I wanted to actually understand your view on this. As you said, first, it came the tweet where he announced this strategic crypto reserve, which was composed supposedly by XRP, ADA, Sol, and only after it came like a correcting tweet where he was also adding Bitcoin and Ethereum as if he forgot about it. But it seems very strange that he didn't mention Bitcoin first. So what do you think has happened there?
I mean, I laid out very explicitly what happened. That's exactly what happened. There's no other interpretation of what happened because there's no possible way to have any other interpretation. It was obviously a pump and dump maneuver by his sons.
All right. So you think that they are literally manipulating the markets for their own needs?
Of course. Why else would you post something so retarded?
There is a lot of conversation going on about what something like that would mean for crypto in general if they follow through this plan of creating a crypto strategic reserve. So a lot of people are saying that this is actually very, very bad for crypto. Do you agree with that? Or you just think that there is not a real serious intention to create something like that?
So what XRP and ADA might do, which by the way, they bribed their way in to get that. Right? Like they obviously bribed their way into the White House to get that. If they're included in the strategic reserve, which was done via a very grifty method, but if they did get in, it'll be a tiny, tiny portion. It'll be like 1% or something like that. That's why leading with that tweet is so dishonest. If they have bribed their way in, which they probably have, as evidenced by that tweet, if they've bribed their way in, then the likely percentage makeup is going to be quite low. It's going to be a very small percentage.
Why Bitcoin yes and all those cryptos no? For those who don't know your basic positions, can you explain why?
I'll give you a one-liner, and that's about it that I'm going to talk about. It'd be like asking, why do I want to diversify my gold into bark, twine, and a pile of dog shit?
But I was reading on your X account that you were making a comparison with stocks.
Sure. It's a little bit more gracious that I put on Twitter, but that's what I just told you is exactly how I feel about it.
Okay. Tyler Winklevoss said that he was also agreeing with you that this is a bad idea, but he was saying that maybe Ethereum could be a good idea since it is more of a commodity in a sense that there is not such a high degree of centralization, unlike those other coins.
Look, I think that you've got gold, and then I don't think Ethereum is anything regarding sound money at all. Like Ethereum is a tech play. Like it's a much higher risky crypto asset than Bitcoin. It is not money. It's not gold. It's a smart contract platform, which I think Solana does a much better job at. So I'd actually be more in favor of Solana than Ethereum.
When it comes to this idea of creating a Bitcoin strategic reserve, why do you think it would be beneficial for the interest of the United States?
Sure. We already have a gold reserve. So a similar sort of thought. The U.S. has the largest gold reserve out there. Now, the U.S. dollar is not backed by gold anymore, but when it did, this gold reserve represented that. The U.S. still held on to their gold even after coming off the gold standard. So the gold reserve does act as some small amount of additional trust that people can have in the U.S. dollar. I do think that a strategic Bitcoin reserve, as conceptualized by Trump and others, would be more of a way for the U.S. to have almost a sovereign wealth fund-esque mechanism where the U.S. government would then own a certain amount of Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin over time, as it appreciates, will give the U.S. government flexibility to either pay off the government debt, back the dollar by Bitcoin, etc.
Eric Carter said that he is very much against the idea of Bitcoin strategic reserve because he says that the United States doesn't really need to sort of hedge against the US dollar in the sense that the US dollar is already the dominant currency in the world. So by backing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, it would potentially undermine the dominance of the US dollar and therefore go against its own interests.
Copy paste his argument for gold. Why does the US still have gold reserves? Gold undermines the value and confidence in the dollar.
By implementing this Bitcoin strategic reserve, there would be an immense transfer of wealth from to Bitcoiners, who are a very tiny amount of people in the US, which would be disproportionately get benefits from this decision, and that would be perceived by the large public as not fair. What do you think?
Cool. Well, 20% of the US population owns crypto. And then if you look at all sorts of government deals, whether it be Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, tax breaks, bailouts, unions, all sorts of things, people are always trying to get their own. So if they're whining about Bitcoin, then if they whine about people like Bitcoin, which is, by the way, this is good for everyone if they didn't understand that. But let's say that they didn't understand that, they complain that a certain number of people made money from that. Welcome to capitalism. Welcome to the role that governments play in influencing the economy. I don't make the rules. It is what it is.
There is this idea that even selecting Bitcoin as part of this strategic reserve would also be some sort of picking the winners in the market.
That's like saying, oh no, I picked the number one asset through the entire history of crypto's existence. Oh no, is that a good idea? I don't know. You fucking tell me. Bitcoin's been the number one asset the entire existence of crypto. You look at there's tens of thousands of alts that have come and gone. To argue that concentration is a risk here is kind of ridiculous. It's like saying that like, oh no, I have concentration risk in gold as a precious metal. Maybe I should diversify into platinum and silver. Well, over 4,000 years of global financial history has proven people just wanted gold. So the idea that like, oh, maybe I should diversify my gold into aluminum, bark, and other things just doesn't make any sense. So like there is no concentration risk. There's no risk in choosing the number one asset. You know, Bitcoin isn't just the largest crypto asset. It's been the number one asset the entire time. And it's larger than everything else combined, which there's a network effect behind that. You don't need to diversify into the other ones. It's just more Bitcoin is the deepest liquidity pool, this deepest pool of buyers and sellers. It's the most credible monetary policy. And so, yeah, you could diversify it, but diversification doesn't get you much here. It's also like, again, it's like saying like, why doesn't the US diversify away from the gold standard? It doesn't. No other country did either. So it's sort of like asking the same thing.
What is your price range for Bitcoin for the end of 2025, let's say, if everything goes according to your vision?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that Bitcoin here, we've had a bunch of 30% dips in previous cycles along the way. This is just one of those. I still think we're in a bull run. I think a lot of the macro scaring folks, tariffs, etc. I think those will be resolved or those will be figured out. I think this is more of short-term pain where by summer, I think we see the market turn around significantly to where at the end of the year, I think Bitcoin's going to be trading above 150K. Of course, I can't predict the market. I don't have any idea. I don't know exactly where it's going to go. But Bitcoin is still very much in a bull run regime right now. This is my fourth cycle, so I've seen a lot of dips along the way.
Thanks a lot for this, Dan, and let's see how
Cool.
things are going to play out.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.